set.
You're all set. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 to order. Acting under the provisions of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, SS 112-1 through 112-7, the Historical Commission will hold a public hearing on the following applications. The following applications have been determined significant and were referred to a public hearing. This meeting of the Historical Commission is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. We ask that during the afternoon's proceedings, cell phones be turned off and conversations other than those before the commission take place outside this room. When an application is called, please come to the table and sign in, which right next to Corey. Yeah. Thank you. And sign in, and then all interested parties and abutters should also come forward. At that time, I would say you can stay seated if you need to and come up when it's time. Mm-hmm. Our first order of business is to take roll call attendance. And first person, Marilyn Fifield, is not here. George Jessup, not yet. Jack Kay?
Present.
Cheryl Powell? No. Barbara DiBiase? Here. And Robert Frazee?
Here.
Okay. So we have our first hearing, and that one is Judy Vargas at 151 Pine Avenue, Hyannis, map 307, parcel 141, built circa 1710, listed individually on the National Register of Historic Places, and an application was brought in last month for full demolition to demolish the existing fire-damaged house. And now we're going to hear from Steve Cook.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Steve Cook from Couture Bay Design, representing Jody Vargas. So after last month's meeting, went back, spoke to Jody, and what we decided to do is to repair and remodel the main section of the structure, which is the original 1710 structure, and then remove the rear one-story section on the back, which looks like there's sections from the 19th century, sections from 20th century, and not repair that. That was severely fire damaged also, so we're just concentrating on the main body of the house. So what we're going to do is rebuild, repair it, remove all fire damaged timbers, any rotted timbers, dry rot, powder post beetles, so forth. And then we're going to put on new siding, roof, trim, windows, and doors. Keeping the front door with the transom, and we're going to try to rework the front trim. I know that's a highly detailed trim. They're going to remove the chimney and replace it with a wood frame flue chase with brick veneer on it. Put a new bulkhead on the rear and have granite door platforms. So our overall goal is to have a safe, modern interior with a historically consistent exterior that will last for a number of years. You know, as everybody knows, with insurance, there's only limited funds and trying to repair it. So we figured we would concentrate on the main body of the house and save that.
Good news.
That I'll take any questions.
Really good.
You have pictures that I sent you?
I did. I did not have time to download all of them.
Oh, and we did have one little change. There were a couple pieces of plywood over the left side of the house that looked like there might have been small windows, but when I went in and measured, I didn't see the windows, but Jody provided a picture of two small windows.
The little two-by-twos.
So I'm going to put them in. I'm going to instead. These are like tiny double hungs. I'm going to make them like a awning window, just a square sash.
Yeah. Great.
So I'll revise the plan on that end of it. But
I thought of that day. I was going to bring it up today. So good for you.
So I did mark it up on my plan. You see, it's a little.
Yep. it's a character-defining element of that earlier cape, which is why it's important to have.
Yeah, and that was on the street side only. So,
Oh, that's
yeah, so
interesting.
maybe they just decided to put them in to dress up that side of the house, since you get it's on a corner. Because if you go on the other side of the house, there's no windows there. So.
Now, Bob and I went into the house.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That was really nice to be able
One
to
thing,
do that.
we like to take pictures of the structure. If it is demolished, we still have something that the town can keep for their records. But we were impressed with the amount of damage inside and very impressed with Steve Cook's and the owner's decision. Very appreciative. And Bob, you
No, absolutely, I agree.
have details.
Not much to add. I think there's a lot of work to be done to make it whole again, and I know this is what Steve's outlined, but and I appreciate that the owner and Steve are willing to tackle that. And my personal opinion is that much of the 19th century L in the back was probably moved with the building when it came from its original site, but I don't feel that it is terribly important compared to the antiquity of the early building up front. And I think you can bring some more modern services to the structure, I hope, if you choose to, without the L in the back and having to preserve that. So we talked about staircases and things, which is not our purview, but just as an example, it's got a classic good morning staircase that splits at the top. It would never meet code, but if you are able to take the L off, maybe you have another way up or something like that.
Yeah, the plan is to keep that morning staircase, and then there's a whole new set of stairs behind it because the whole fireplace
That's coming out.
complex is coming out.
There you
because
go.
of that condition, that's pretty bad.
Yep.
So we're going to keep that morning stair because that front door with the transom and the whole front entry hall and the morning stair, that's very historically accurate, and we
You're
don't
gonna-
want to lose that part.
You're going to keep the good morning staircase
Yeah.
with more steps, or keep it?
There's a whole new
as
set of
steep as
stairs
it is?
behind it.
Oh,
It'll be an alternative way up or down for
So-
people who are feeling
So
brave.
basically, you have two set of stairs, but,
yeah.
people probably won't use that because of the...
Almost like in
that's
two
right.
directions, coming like this and then like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, just have to make a safe, building code compliant set of stairs.
Right.
To get up to the second floor.
But just for the fun of it, think what an improvement on the original ladder up those steps probably were, with that earlier house. It almost certainly was just a ladder up to a loft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comments from other members?
Are we going to revisit the application and not make it a full demolition application?
So the commission can choose to make a motion when you do your motions to include that this will be instead a partial demolition as described at today's meeting.
Here you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
had the same question, so,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Shall I open the hearing to the public? All right. Okay, we're open to the public. If there's anybody who would like to come up and sit here, sign in and tell us you're happy about the decision or not, Barbara?
I think I said last time that I really felt it was a treasure, like Nancy did. But, well, I have no more to say because I have no say in it. I have no authority.
Well, public has a say. Public has a say.
Especially informed public.
Yeah.
You're informed. Officially.
Would you like to make a public comment?
I would.
Yeah, you can come right up
good.
to where Steve is
Great.
sitting, please. And then sign in on the sign-in sheet. I've got a pen here.
I'm Mary Ellen Gennaro. I live at 19 Harvard. I really just have some questions as far as, I don't think we've stood in the way of preserving the house. I think the concern for the neighbors, Laura who can speak to this as well, is really about what happens. And I know that's not the purview of this committee to figure out what happens when people may potentially return to the property. I guess my question then would be for you, Steve, is when do you see this happening? How long do you expect it to happen? Can you speak to if Jody is going to put her brother back in that home again?
reconstruction, and I don't know the answer about her brother.
Do you see, and this is for the commission, there are some concerns in the home with the steepness of that staircase, bringing it to code and still keeping it in terms of its parameters for historical relevance. Is that something that this commission would see slowing down that process? I would hate to see us in a situation in the neighborhood where something has stopped on the reconstruction of the home and it sits for a few more years because it gets tied up here.
Once we decide to give them permission to demolish a whole structure, partial, whatever, then those kind of questions really go to the, what board? Building department?
Once the
Yeah.
construction, the construction plans are submitted through building.
So could you educate me on this? Does this commission work at that point hand in hand with the building department to make sure things are historically happening the way that they are supposed to? Or does the building department just look at the plans, you approve them, and then Steve's able to go and do what he needs to do in a timely fashion?
With some overseeing by the town, yeah.
Yeah, our purview is principally with the exterior of the building. We don't have, as I understand it, any jurisdiction inside. We're talking about the staircase just because we're intrigued with the building so much, and we had the privilege of seeing it, and we knew about it as part of the architectural description of the property.
And there will be a staircase that will go by
And I
code.
would say, from hearing what Steve said in his testimony, there's high confidence that installing a new staircase in addition to it in the building will obviate compliance with the code in that way. So I wouldn't predict that would hold it up. I'm beyond my realm of expertise by a few miles, but that's my impression of it.
Yeah. On my side of things, when a building permit is submitted, it does tag everyone that needs to sign off on that building permit. So that usually does include, depending on where you live and such, it could include conservation, health. It does include the historical commission. So at that point, beforehand, I'll ask Steve to send me the updated with the little windows as well. So when he uploads those, I look at those. I tell the building inspector, hey, everything looks good. And the building inspector does do a inspection and such of the building once it's complete.
Thank you. I came here with a different conversation in mind today, so we're happy to see something hopefully positive happening with this structure. As I said in my letter last month, as Laura testified, this building has, for the 6 years that I have been in the neighborhood, it has been a great source, and I won't pass these out to you. I know you don't care at this point, but there are 5 pages of police reports. 5 pages. There are reports from the Board of Health. There are reports from the building department. This has been a very unsafe property for the people that live there and for the neighborhood. It continues to be an unsafe property. I ask about the time frame that you can do something with this, Steve, because just since last month, since the last meeting, we've had 2 incidents that directly connect to this house. Someone tried to enter Laura's home, and we're not sure if it was the same vagrant person or not who last week was on this property in the bushes with their items, undressing on the corner of the sidewalk. I have children, I have foster children. It's not a safe thing for us to feel like we have to constantly lock our doors. The invasion into your home was at what time of night?
Yeah, it was like 5. I mean, it was fairly early. It was daylight, and
Yeah.
scary.
So our concern would just be that this is expedient in the process. We've never been against saving the history of the house. I live in the home across the street that happens to be also a Hinckley home, and it's one that I feel very proud to be a steward of. I happen to be dear friends with with Jody's oldest brother. I know the history of the neighborhood and the house. We celebrate that. We, like you, want to protect the history of it, but we also need to think about protecting our safety, the safety of our families, and the value of our properties, which we have watched decline and decline and decline because of this mess. Some of the reports include rat infestation in the home that's bled into the neighbors' homes.
Yeah, that
and
does
those
happen.
reports have been made by numerous people in this room, not just
Most
two
of what
us.
you're talking about, though, will be not an issue anymore. This house will be safely built. Houses that are left empty do get rat infestations.
It
just
had
does
rat
happen.
infestations prior to, with people living in it.
Yeah, I was
There
gonna
was a
bet that.
complaint by one of the tenants. There were homeless people. They were renting tent space to homeless people. At one point, there were 21 people 3 summers ago living in and on this property. On the day of the fire, as you may well be aware, there were 11 people living in this property. The windows were wide open. They blew in the breeze in November. I don't know what caused the fire. Could have been a space heater, could have been somebody smoking, whatever it was. It was not a safe space. It's not your purview, but I did ask you, what is Jody's intent for returning her brother to the house? Because that is unacceptable, but that isn't an issue for you guys. That's something we'd take up somewhere else. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your letter previously. That was
Yep,
important to us.
we all want the same thing, I think. We just want a beautiful, safe, preserved place to be and to be proud of. So, thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to come up? Yes. Please.
My name is Laura Wenzel. I live at 7 Harvard Street, next to Mary Ellen, across from this home. And my only question really at this point is anything going to be done with the back L of the house, or is it just going to be gone and yard?
If we have not voted on anything, but if we do vote in favor of what Steve is suggesting and putting forth to us, then the back L will be removed.
Correct.
Right, well,
That'll be lawn,
that's big.
there's a patio proposed in the plan.
So basically, the only thing left is the original
Correct.
building.
Yeah,
Would be-
with a new shed dormer on the rear. This
Okay.
We propose a new shed dormer, because the existing shed dormer is very small.
Right.
And there's no height, so we need some height, so we're just doing a new shed dormer in the back. So that's what the rear of the house will look
That's the
like.
rear, okay.
Yeah, and there's a new bulkhead right there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so this will be a patio out here.
And the garage itself, will that be also demolished?
I'm not sure on that end of it,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay.
I hope not. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Mary Ellen said, we all want the same thing for the property. We
Yeah.
just want it.
They would have to
want it to be
come
safe.
back for another hearing,
Got you, okay.
right? You're not including that in the...
No, but it could be repaired,
Yeah.
and just more maintenance items on that. We don't know what the structure is, there's too much stuff in there, so my task is just to concentrate on the house, not the garage at the moment. I don't even know what the age of that garage is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else? Then we will, do I have to vote for public hearing closing? Yes, okay.
A motion to close.
Okay, we will have a motion, please, to close public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Bob Frazee. Okay, Bob Frazee, what's your vote?
I
Barbara? Aye. Jack?
Aye.
And I say aye, too. Okay. So, more questions to Steve or any other comments?
I don't have an I'm happy with what's going to happen there. I anticipate you'll probably fence this while you're building it?
Yes, yeah, there'll be construction fencing around it.
That's comfort.
Yeah.
security concerns for you as the contractor, but I hope for the neighborhood as well, to some extent, to
Correct,
keep
yeah.
people from messing around in it. Yeah.
Do I hear a
Oh, yeah.
motion? Does anybody have the sheets to make one?
Amend the motion?
Yes.
So when you read it in, if you want to read it in, and then you can say for full demolition of the existing fire damaged
You got it?
house.
And then
But you're
amend
gonna
it
say-
afterwards while it's
yeah,
a
and then-
standing motion?
Yep, so, and then say with the amendment that this house will be actually partially demolished as described at today's meeting.
Okay. And then we vote on the motion after the amendment?
Yes.
All right, that sounds very parliamentary. I like that. Okay. So this is concerning the property at 151 Pine Avenue, Hyannis, map 307, parcel 141, built circa 1710, listed individually in the National Register of Historic Places. The applicant has proposed a full demolition, demolish the existing fire-damaged house. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building, 151 Pine Avenue, Hyannis, is a preferably preserved significant building.
I'll second that.
And now we need the amendment to be proposed.
Yep.
I would propose that the motion be amended so that it is no longer for a full demolition, but for a partial demolition as proposed by the applicant this date for this meeting, which would be a demolition solely for the purpose of removing the L at the rear of the principal building. Is that too wordy to vote on?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All right, I don't have the other,
Jack has
an
it.
I vote means that kind of, oh, thank you. Okay. An I vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. So I don't have to go through everyone's names again, right? Just us four. Jack Kay.
Nay.
Barbara DiBiase.
Nay.
Bob Frazee.
Nay.
And Nancy Shoemaker, nay. Okay, do we have another motion, please?
All right.
Which would be at the bottom.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the full demolition of the building located at 151 Pine Avenue, Hyannis, is not detrimental to the historical culture, architectural heritage, or resources of the town. This motion being made as previously amended.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. That's enough of
Want to
an
include the
addition?
amendment?
That's fine, because
All right.
you've already stated it'd be a
All right.
partial instead.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. An I vote determines that the full demolition of the single-family structure with the amendments noted is not detrimental, then no demolition delay would be imposed. Okay, Bob Frazee.
Aye.
Barbara DiBiase.
Aye.
Jack Kay.
Aye.
Nancy Shoemaker, aye. It-
Good.
So
Thank you very much.
Steve.
we
Thank you.
appreciate your listening to us and coming in
and the
last
owner, too.
month and
And the neighborhood.
making very radical changes from what was first proposed to us, not just you and what you were thinking and starting to understand, but also the owner. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We'll keep it moving,
Yeah,
make everybody proud.
yeah, good.
All right,
Good.
take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, so we have an application in Hyannisport. This is Nancy Baumgarten, Treasurer et al., 80 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 006, built 1802. Contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. The application is for a partial demolition, removing approximately 170 feet of wall from a 1954 addition to accommodate a new proposed addition. Renovate with new kitchen, mudroom, and several doors and windows to be changed. The original 1802 house to remain unchanged, although you do need to come here because even the demolition of a wall is a demolition, so just to make it clear. Yep.
I'm Michael
Okay.
Collins. I'm representing the owners of 80 Irving. This is a family home that the Newman family has owned and lived in for several decades, since the early 50s, I believe. The original 1802 house, which is facing Irving Ave, as described, is untouched in the proposed alterations. We are simply modifying the wing on the back, a one-story wing on the back, which was built somewhere in the 50s. And you can see it in that top right photograph on the far right side. It is obscured by a 6-foot stockade fence in the photo. In the sketch that I've drawn below, the fence is removed for clarity. The other side of that is where the addition to the house is going to be, which is on that dashed line on my drawing in the lower left. That's the section of wall and roof that's getting removed to accommodate a back door, a laundry room, and a stair to the basement. Currently, basement access is on a very steep, not code compliant stair within the space of that addition. That addition is about 600 square feet or so. There will be a chimney removed as well, as noted, and I think further drawings show the proposed elevation of that small addition. So the 180-odd square feet on the lower portion of that wing, which is shown, is the laundry area, stair, and back entry. The stair, there's an existing set of floor plan drawings in there as well, which shows the current configuration of the kitchen and the existing stair to that small basement. The house is, the original house has mostly crawl space, has a small Cape Cod basement, and that 1950s addition has a full-height addition with some mechanical space down there. It's unfinished currently and remain unfinished. I don't want to stay. I don't want to take up more time. And
You'll get asked questions.
Yeah,
don't
that's
worry.
exactly. I'll address them as they come.
So, do we have any questions or requests for a little more detail?
I have one question, but it's pretty minor in the overall thing, and that is you had the fence removed for clarity and presenting the plan. Is the fence going to remain, the stockade fence?
Yeah, I removed it only in the drawing.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the fence is going to remain. There's a small patio.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I saw that in the photographs
Yeah, the
as well.
fence.
I figured that would be your answer.
The fence won't need to be removed because the construction is primarily on the other side.
Mhm.
But yes, it will remain.
So the changes to that side that's fenced are pretty minor anyway, so
Yes,
I understand
it's
that.
a relocation of a door. The bay window that exists is going to be replaced with another bay window, slightly shifted. And the windows will all be simulated divided light, insulated glass, obviously, to comply with energy code. And materials are listed there consistent with the house, white cedar, shingles, and painted trim and corner boards.
Great, thank you.
So the grid patterns in the windows are going to match and all that?
Correct.
Again, just that 170 square feet of wall will be demoed.
And that small chimney,
Oh, yes, okay.
which is serving an old
Yeah.
boiler in the basement, which we'll going to replace as a direct vent.
Okay.
Chimney that
Yes.
is at the rear.
Yes, that
Of the main
is
house.
part of the main house, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty magnificent fireplace. That remains.
Okay.
The other is a small flue, basically.
Great.
Just cut and dry.
Anyone want to make a motion for public hearing?
Well, do you want anybody from the public to participate.
Do we want them to? What do you mean?
I mean, you always have to open
Yeah.
a public hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I thought that was already done.
Yeah.
So she's
No,
just
they
looking for a
can't-
motion
they
to
can't
open
vote, no.
the public meeting.
Yeah.
Definitely suggest we open it for a public hearing. Yes, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, and a vote? Jack?
Aye.
Barbara? Bob?
Aye.
Nancy? Aye.
You can tell who the new kid on the
Okay,
block
is there anyone in this room from the public who would like to speak? All right, come up here, please, and sign in, and you'll have to move, sir, sorry. We have economy of chairs.
That's the hot seat.
Pardon?
The hot seat. This is the hot seat. It's already warmed up. Applicant reference position title. Am I putting my address? Or what am I?
If you could put the application's address, so I know that you had commented on this
I
application.
can read that writing. It looks like 80 Irving. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Betty Ludke, and as you had mentioned earlier, there are a lot of Hyannisport properties here today. Mine is one of them. But I just wanted to speak about this one because I know everyone in Hyannisport. And I know Larry Newman bought this house, and Larry Newman, with another gentleman from Hyannisport, wrote
Historian and
old
author.
Hyannisport book. I don't know if any of you have seen that. It's just beautiful. So it's just so nice. And I have been inside this house, and it is, like was said, you step back in time. They've done such a beautiful job with this. And the other thing I appreciate about it is they have a low fence. So many people in Hyannisport are putting high fences,
Yeah.
high shrubbery, that all you see are fences and shrubbery. In most part, because most people are putting swimming pools in. I mean, you can't drop a dime without finding another swimming pool in Hyannisport. So I really like this. I'm familiar with the fence you guys had mentioned. It gives them a little bit of privacy for the one patio they have. On the side, they're doing the work. I don't know if you can see in that picture. There's a house right up against them and their garage. So this will really be unnoticed to the public. So I'm wholeheartedly in support of this. They have a nice little kitchen garden out there they've done. So they do great work on this, and they keep it up, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm in huge support of anything the Newmans are going to do to keep this in the family and keep it an active house. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, that's great.
Yeah. Anybody else from the public who would like to speak? No? Hearing none? Make a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Okay, vote. Bob?
Aye.
Barbara? Jack?
Aye.
Nancy? Aye. So back to our meeting, and you might want to come back up again. Any other issues or things that have come up since that you want to discuss with our applicant?
I well, thank Betty. My relationship goes deep. Larry is my uncle.
Oh, neat.
It's my godfather.
That's wonderful.
Leland, Nancy, and Megan are my cousins. And we spent many summers in the 60s watching President Kennedy come sweeping in. And Hill's a great place.
So you care? Yep. All right. Anybody want to make a
I think it's a
motion?
great idea, so
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly support what you're doing.
Thank you.
Motion? Anybody?
Do you want me to read them?
Sure.
Okay. It's the motion for Baumgarten, Nancy Treasure et al., 80 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 006, built 1802. Contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. A request for a partial demolition. Remove approximately 170 square feet of wall from 1954 addition to accommodate proposed new addition. Renovate with new kitchen, mudroom, and several doors and windows to be changed. Original 1802 house to remain unchanged.
I'll second that.
All right. Now, continue on with,
On the motion?
yeah.
I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building, 80 Irvin Avenue, Hyannisport is a preferably preserved significant building.
Second that.
Okay, an aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. Nay will not impose an 18-month delay. So, Jack K., your vote.
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Bob?
Nay.
Nancy? Nay. Okay,
All right.
so go down to the bottom one.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located 80 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
Second that.
All right, an aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental and no demolition delay will be imposed. Bob?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
And Nancy Shoemaker? Aye. You are.
Great.
All set.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you.
and thank you again for being sensitive to the history of these homes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the Newmans that
It's hard not
want to stay and want to continue, so
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Wonderful.
And our next applicant is the Alversons, Catherine and Harry III, Treasurer, 64 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 094, built 1900, contributing structure with the Hyannisport National Register District.
Nancy, did we,
Did
were
you skip
skipping
one?
over Shay?
Oh, did I really?
Yeah.
The last
you
one
missed
on
one
the
on the-
agenda, first page?
You just took
Okay,
them out of order.
should stay with what's here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please stick to the agenda.
All right,
Got a much longer drive home than I do.
then don't
Yeah,
say, yeah.
so you can just,
Do you want the
Goodbye.
two of us for
We'll
that?
see you again. Sorry about that.
yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
You get the extra exercise.
We're going to get a new president this coming month. That's a threat to all of you. James and Monica Shea, 44 Dale Avenue, Hyannisport, map 286, parcel 011, built in 1700. Wow. Contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. Partial demolition of new bays on the southeast, southwest, and northwest facades. New second floor over the existing garage. New screened porch over existing deck. New windows in the kitchen on the southeast facade. Raised roof over the area of existing northernmost shed dormers. All new work to match existing details and materials. So we would like to hear details.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm Richard Curl, architect for Jim and Monica Shea, and Craig is the builder for the project. Jim and Monica have owned the house for about 20 years and use it as a summer home, and are currently planning to make it their year-round home, and have asked me to design some additions and renovations to make it more livable day to day. So basically, we've kept most of the existing house. What we've done is we've added some bays. So on the bottom are two existing views from the street. On the right, it's from the southeast, and the left is the southwest. And then above are a model view of what we're proposing to do. So on the upper right, you can see where there's currently the shed dormer that runs along the length of the building. Well, there are two at sort of slightly different heights. We're leaving the shed, but we're adding bays to the front. So there's a series of 3 bays that you can see there. On the left-hand side, you can see the front gable of the house, and what we're doing is we're adding a bay on the second floor to the left side of the gable there. Looking from the north, let's see. On the bottom, on the lower right, is from the northwest. And above that, you can see we're adding a second story to the one-story piece that's closest to us on the bottom picture. And on the left, we're adding the 3 bays that I described before. And then above the garage space, there's where you can see the second-story space with the shed dormer. Additionally, on the first floor, on the upper left, you can see that we've changed the fenestration. Right now, there's a kind of a mishmash of old and new stuff. We're doing full-height, double-hung windows along the back where the new kitchen will be. So all this is within the existing footprint. We're basically adding parts to the second floor.
So, but go back to that last one, if you don't mind. So is that considered a garage on 4 up top north?
So the piece that's closest to us.
So that is going to become this?
Yes.
So that's-
So this is existing garage, and basically we're leaving the existing garage, but we're adding a second floor. Kind of within the same paradigm of keeping the pitched roof with shed doors on either side.
And the ridge of the garage will still remain lower than the ridge of the principal dwelling, so it's a...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions?
Pretty glamorous.
Yeah.
A bit of lipstick. Very nice.
Anyone want to make a motion for public hearing?
Yeah, so moved?
Second?
Okay. Anyone from the public here to speak? Yes, come forward, please. Does she have to sign in again?
No, it's okay.
Next time,
I
we'll do
can
two
make
spaces
note of
here.
it in my minutes right now.
Yeah.
Betty Ledke. Just like I spoke about the Newman's house, the Shays came to Hyannisport in the 80s. They have 5 homes in Hyannisport. If you've seen the homes that they've renovated, they are stunning beyond belief. The most recent one was the Celentano house as you enter Hyannisport. It's just immaculate and gorgeous. They do everything they can to really help the community in every way. This house used to belong to the O'Keeffes. I don't know if people are familiar with Attorney Peter O'Keefe that practiced law here for many years. His mother was the last owner of this. And I remember when they put the back shed dormers on shortly before she died, and then they sold it to the Shays. But everything they're doing here is spectacular. It fronts on Dale Avenue, which then overlooks the water, and it really is going to be beautiful. It sets up on a hill, and when you look at that garage, nobody can see that. That is way back, and again, there's a house right beside it here. Everything's so tight in Hyannisport, so that garage will never be seen. So this looks like they did do that nice deck when they bought the house on front. Now I think they're just adding to it and making it really nice. And I appreciate everything they do. They always just, as I said, do stunning work. So I can't recommend you approve this more. I mean, it's really looks terrific. Thank you.
The fenestration is improved, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Any other people, someone from the public before we close that? Okay. Any motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one, it's a question or a thought. I certainly drove around the port today and took a look at these places. I know most of them anyway. Who wouldn't? The view that is most prominently available for public viewing is actually from the southwest off towards the causeway to Squaw Island, because it sits up so high and there isn't an obstruction in the line of sight. So principally, this view that we're seeing now, I don't believe will be tremendously evident going up and down Dale Avenue. At first, I was a little concerned that driving around the port, we might be amplifying a little more than is critically necessary. The Domical, Queen Anne enlarged dormers, and they look elegant and wonderful, but if you put a ton of them in one area, it tends to be a little bit of a less special element. And one of the houses that we have a hearing for later has an original Queen Anne tower in the front of it, and it just is perfect. I'm just putting it out there as a general caution maybe for the future, because I don't think you'd want to see this element on every single house in Hyannisport. And it's a very efficient way to enlarge the volume of a second floor. So it's got a utility behind it, and I appreciate that. And I'm not disagreeing with it. It's just, if there are other ways to do it at times, I hope people will try and be mindful of that and
And
work
the-
some other
These
magic.
two so bay dormers, could I call them that, are not seen very obviously from the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two are, but the others will not be.
Yeah. Other comments, questions? We're speeding right along here today. Okay. Entertain a motion?
I'll try that. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated material, the significant building at 44 Dale Avenue, Hyannisport, is a preferably preserved significant building.
Can you also read the top paragraph, too? Read the top paragraph?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Shay, James, and Monica at 44 Dale Avenue, Hyannisport, map 286, parcel 11, built in 1700, contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. Partial demolition, new bays on southeast, southwest, and northwest facades. The second floor over existing garage, a new second floor. New screen porch over the existing deck. New windows in the kitchen on the southeast facade. Raised roof over area of existing northernmost shed dormers. All new work to match existing details and materials.
Second motion?
All right. So an aye will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Barbara?
Nay.
Bob?
Nay.
Jack?
Nay.
And I vote nay. So go down to the bottom.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located 44 Dale Avenue, Hyannisport, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
Second that.
Okay. An aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental and no demolition delay will be imposed. So again, Barbara?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Nancy? Aye. So,
Good, thank you very much.
Looks beautiful.
have three more. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and our next one is Alverson, yes?
That is the correct one.
Okay, so Catherine and Harry Alverson, treasurers, 64 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 094, built 1900, contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. Partial demolition is to change the door to a window, relocate and close one window, add windows to the first floor rear and west elevation, and add covered bulkhead. All details per plans to match existing dwelling. And we're ready to hear from you.
All right. This is essentially a very simple alteration of a couple of windows, closing in a porch. All of the work contained herein is being performed on a portion of the building that was constructed in the late 1996, I believe. There's a few other sections in here that show the area of the original house there that you see. Right-hand side, follow the second eave back to the jog. That is the original house, and everything to the left of that. This is the original house here, this way. And then from here over is new. We're not impacting anything on either side of the house that's part of the original fabric. And if we flip to another page, shows that back again. There you go. Everything you see in this elevation is new construction that was, we did, I think 96. So we're basically taking a window from here, moving it to there. The door's going to go on that side. Bulkhead will be at grade right here where that landing
This
is.
door's going to go on the side, not
It
what we're
will
looking
be
at.
on the side. There's an elevation that shows the completed. Yep, that's new.
Oh, I see what you did.
Looks like they're making a more usable room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Questions?
cut and dry.
How about a motion to have a public hearing?
Second?
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Ms. Lidke, I think we're getting to know you well.
Hi, Betty Ledke, speaking in support. I can't forget Katie and Harry since I spoke for the other folks. I remember when they bought this house, it was practically falling down, and they did an amazing job with it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so cute, and they keep it up beautifully. They are year-rounders, unlike the previous two aren't year-rounders, so they're here all the time. And I think that this is a very modest thing they're doing. Again, in the back, you won't see anything of it, and it looks like it's in keeping with. If you wanted to see it, you would still love it too. So, 100% in support of this. Looks really good. Thanks.
Anybody else from the public? Hearing none. I'm
Close the public hearing?
Second.
Barbara, second.
Yep.
Okay. We entertain a motion or any questions about the house, so, design?
Straightforward.
Okay. So we need a motion.
I'll do it. Alverson, Catherine, and Harry III, Treasurer, 64 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 094, built 1900, contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. Request for a partial demolition to change door to window, relocate and close one window, add windows to first floor rear and west elevation, and add covered bulkhead. All details per plans to match existing dwelling. Motion one, I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building, 64 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, is a preferably preserved significant building.
Second that?
Okay. An aye will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Jack?
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Bob?
Nay.
Nancy? Nay. Okay.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located 64 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
Second that?
Okay, an aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay imposed. Bob?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
And aye. So, you
Great.
have permission. Great. Okay, we'll move right on to a name I haven't heard before, Betty Ludke. 30 Washington Avenue.
Wachusett.
Oh, wait a
It's Wachusett.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a lot of avenues down there.
30 Wachusett Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 053, built 1890, contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. And the partial demolition is main dwelling, remove a lean-to addition on the rear, remove a ramp, and add a front porch. Secondary dwelling, requesting to remove a chimney, bulkhead, and front porch, and extend a dormer. Addition to connect to the main building connect the main dwelling to the secondary building. So the two that are in place will be connected. Okay?
Okay. Do you want to go back to the first ones, or what do you want to, how do you want me to present this, with the pictures? I mean, in the order that you have
Whatever
the stuff?
you're comfortable with, but.
Okay, I kind of based my notes on the order that the pictures were.
So if you want to go back to the pictures, yeah.
And I also have David Sorrow, my general contractor, here to support. Okay. What I did 5 years ago is I bought the house behind me that had been in that same family for a number of years. The woman who was in her 90s died in the home. I would say I had the two smallest lots in Hyannisport. And my whole idea in buying this was to combine the houses. I have 4 children, so I thought I'd expand. And I'm not sure if anyone else could have bought that, because I'm not sure what they did with the septic, because the house in the back was built in 1946 and still has the original cesspool in it. In fact, talking about stepping back in time, you walk into it and it hasn't been touched, and I love that. And I intend to keep the interior just as it is. And my front house, 1890, has been renovated. I inherited it from my parents. It had a renovation in 1967, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then another one in 1986. And what you're seeing here up top, that's the front of the house on 30 Wachusett Avenue, and it's a corner lot, and you're seeing the side view of it on Lafayette. And it's on Lafayette that the other house directly behind that I bought. And you see the trees there. There's several large trees that are going to come out, because the only place to put the new septic system for combined houses is in that front yard. So all the trees have to come down. I've gotten zoning board of approval because these residences, both of them, are in violation of every setback you could imagine. So we have gone through the zoning board of approval. I've also gone through the Board of Health, and they've approved the septic design, which was quite a challenge to fit the septic for what will be a 6-bedroom house.
Is it a complex shape?
It has to wrap around the front and go down the side. Again, I don't know who else could have bought this house, because I don't know where they would have ended up putting their septic other than on my property.
It's in the plan, Nancy, you'll see it in a minute.
Yeah, it's all been
impressive.
approved. I mean, as I say, it was quite an effort to go through the zoning board and the Board of Health, but that's all complete. This is the back of the house, and I mentioned addition in 1967. You see that shed dormer with no windows, very unattractive, very practical. My parents put that in. When they bought the house in the 60s, it was a 2-apartment house. The first floor was a 1-bedroom, the second floor was a 2-bedroom apartment. And for historical purposes, it had been used by the Secret Service when the Kennedy administration was in place. And my parents always showed me the telephone box that was in the house, before cell phones, of course. I mean, a massive amount of telephone lines. It's not still there.
Do you have a photo of it, though?
What? Do you
have a photograph of it?
I don't know that I have I don't think they took a photo of it. But what I do have in the house, because nobody's been able to get it out, is the safe when this was actually the post office and the store for the town. So I still have the old safe inside the house. So it has quite a history in Hyannisport. So the demolition, if you will, that's involved in this project is taking off that lean-to in the back that was added in 1967, and then bringing out the gable, I guess you'd call it, all the way to the top to end, and then joining at the first floor, and we'll see it as we proceed through the drawings, to join the two houses so my children wouldn't have to walk outside to go to their bedrooms. That's the idea. And you can see in this, that's the back of my house, which is just incredibly unattractive. And then you can see the back house right there. It's very tight in there. It's probably about 27, 28 feet between them. Okay, we can go to the next pictures. There you can see, I just looked out my back bathroom window to take a picture of that back house right there. That house was built kind of in a curious way. The front of the house faces my house, and the side of it faces the street. So that's the front porch that goes into the living room, and then, which actually on the street is a really unattractive facade that you enter into the kitchen. So why it was built that way, I couldn't tell you. And there you can see, again, if you were going into that back house, the little porch and in there. We'll go to the next ones. There you can see the facade on the street. You can see there's not much to it. It's a very practical house, but again, I love it for that. That's the door to the kitchen there, and there's just a couple windows there. And you can see how tight it is. I literally have to turn my body sideways to walk between my house and my neighbor's house because of the bulkhead. It's about 8 inches between our homes there. And when I looked at this house, the basement leaks like a sieve. It's the old cinder blocks. And I brought out Bob Hayden, the building mover, and he said, you've got to get it as far away from that house as you can, from your neighbor's house, and we'll get rid of the bulk. That's the bulkhead you see there, and the chimney's going away. That's the old oil-fired furnace that's going to go away. So that's the demolition, is that bulkhead and the chimney. And then we're going to bring the house as even with my house on the street. And so that's what's happening. It'll be lifted up and brought over, and then it has a full basement, but it leaks, and it's not very deep.
So, a question, please?
Yeah.
So the two houses will be on a corner?
No, the main house, big house is 30 Wachusett is on the corner.
Right.
This one is on Lafayette, which is a side street.
Okay.
And they will be, I don't know if you can see in the drawings here.
You can enlarge that street plan.
Yeah, if you could enlarge that plan right there, you could see. You can see them, there they are separate. These guys here, 1 and 2. Mine is prominent on the corner, and then this one is on the side street there. And you can see how everybody is built up to the property lines. It's very tight.
So you're going to be lining up the
I'm gonna
back
line up-
building with your building
That's what-
on the Lafayette?
As far as
frontage?
I can go, and that's the zoning board approved that, yes.
The zoning board approved that, and we did have the relocation of that secondary dwelling be determined not significant because
Okay.
it was just being moved.
Sure.
And then the rest of this came to the meeting, so the relocation was
Right.
already approved.
Got it. Thank you. That's
Yep, no problem.
And then the other thing on the back house is it just has one dormer on one side for a bedroom and one dormer on the other side for a bathroom. And I was going to extend those dormers to just give a little more headroom. It's very tight up in there. This is, I know we're kind of bouncing around. Did everyone see that, the plot plan? You saw how it came
Yep.
even with the other house. And then there's a setback, and this is the front. Now, it used to have a porch all the way across, and I want to bring that back. It's listed as a Queen Anne style, and I want to bring the turn columns and a lot of those details back. Because all the trees have to come down, it's going to be very visible and prominent. It's on the main road that goes to the post offices, the church across the street. So it's going to be very prominent. So I really want to pay attention there and make a beautiful front porch where I can put some furniture and flowers and things like that. So I've got a lot of attention to detail on that front porch. And then the other elevation is the very back one, would be the opposite end, the back of the house, that faces right up against the neighbor's garage. If it's 5 feet, it's 5 feet. So, and you can see where a little bit more dormer is put on the back.
And you're going to put a proper basement under?
Yeah, we're going to put a nice poured concrete steeper basement in there. And then, again, the complexity of the septic and joining all of this, they insisted that the two houses are joined. So there's a big quarter in the basement so that the plumbing can come through, so the septic can join up to mine and eventually go into the system.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's the side, and I've tried to make it as much as I can to keep the massing so it doesn't look huge. The one on the bottom, nobody's going to see. It's right up against my neighbor, 10 feet away with a giant hedge. This is the one the top one is the one I'm concerned about, and I think we've got a lot of detail. That's the one on Lafayette, and you saw in the back house how plain it was. I want to put a Nantucket porch with the same degree of detail that we've got on the front with the turn columns and the detail. And then I'm not going to extend to the second floor, the addition between the houses, because I want to keep light and air moving. So it's just going to be a porch. And then, I hate to call, it's not even a garage, it's a storage area. I have 4 kids, bikes, skateboards. Everything has to go in the basement, out of the basement. And this will give that area to be able to put lawn gear, bikes, that kind of thing at street level. And intentionally, you can see the doors will have lots of fenestration to them. And then the door to the right now will be the main door into the house. And I bought an antique door at an antique mall. I'm really sensitive to keeping this stuff looking old on this. And also, again, breaking up the massing. Right now, there's a brick on the foundation. It's not solid brick. It has that, you know, that cutout layer, and you put the bricks. And I'm going to continue that on the back house, so it stays. My original house at 30 did have a brick foundation. It really looks nice. There's that, I don't know if you noticed, that handicap ramp is coming out. It was in one of the pictures. That's because my mom died of Alzheimer's. It was the only way to get her out of the house. So, but it needs to come down now. So we'll have a much prettier, my neighbors will be very glad when this is done, because it's really been unattractive at many levels.
Lot to take in.
But there's that, I think there were some sections and plans and things. I don't know if you really want to look at all that, but there you can see the sections through. This is what I'm talking about, the street level storage area, kind of like a big mudroom, and then the corridor, a conditioned corridor to join the houses so my kids can move back and forth.
It helps that those dormers are stepped in from the gable ends a bit.
The what?
It helps that the dormers are stepped in from the gable ends a bit.
Oh, absolutely. I would never put them at the
I
end.
was getting a little nervous just looking at the gable end of them there. It's a shallow pitch in order to get the headroom you want and the volume in the attic. We're sort of back to the volume in the attic thing. That's life, I get it.
Yeah.
And for sure. But that's where you get into a little bit of an aesthetic rub where you're trying to be comfortable, of course, in a building, and
Exactly.
yet you've got a low pitch or a low ridge to start with.
Oh, it's very
Not
very
practical to
low
raise the ridge
affair.
on a building like that, but otherwise, you know, you'd hope something like that could happen. I think it very much helps that they're stepped in from the ends.
Questions, comments?
No, not for me.
Looks like quite an undertaking.
And anything I didn't mention?
You did a great job, just like you did a great job with the other thing.
Well, I've been here my whole, it's just so nice to see, you know, good things happening and good people doing these things. Yeah, makes the community work together. Yeah.
It might be time for a public hearing.
I would happily move that we open a public hearing.
Second?
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak?
Any of your neighbors stick around to
Hearing,
support you?
hearing none, I think. Yeah, you can't speak for yourself. I guess we'll close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded?
Other questions? No?
Pretty energetic.
Suggestions?
Well, especially if you throw in the septic system maneuverings
Oh
and
my
all
God,
those
I
other things you
mean,
had to do up front. So
The work we've done, and David, I mean, working with it's incredible. It's incredible that this project is coming together. It's going to be, I think it's going to really be nice. Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's a neat location.
I like the Nantucket porch.
Oh, I think that's going to be so cute.
Yeah.
It's really going to add nicely on that street. Yeah.
Well, and you're right, the street end of the back house presently is
It was weird
pretty
that they built it.
uninviting.
It's very, oh, it's horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
How could they have put two houses 10 feet from each other? But
I know,
they
right?
did. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, my mom always said this was an illegal house, whatever that meant, so
We won't ask.
we won't ask how it happened.
Right
Yeah.
from the beginning.
I don't know. I don't know how it got in there, but it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
really crazy.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
You want me to do one? See if I can remember where and how. Got to practice, right? So, Betty Ludke, 30 Wachusett Avenue, Hyannisport, map 287, parcel 53, built 1890, contributing structure within the Hyannisport National Register District. partial demolition, main dwelling, remove lean and lean-to, addition on the rear, remove ramp, and add front porch. Secondary dwelling, remove chimney, bulkhead, and front porch, extend the dormer, addition to connect the main dwelling to the secondary dwelling. Motion 1. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application, and associated materials, the significant building, 30 Wachusett Avenue, Hyannisport, is a preferably preserved significant building.
Second.
I'll second that.
Jack? Okay. An aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. So Jack?
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Bob?
Nay.
Nancy? Nay.
All right.
All right.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located at 30 Wachusett Avenue, Hyannisport, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
Okay, an aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental, and no demolition delay will be imposed. Bob?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing? I see Craig sitting there. It's just interesting to note that when my parents bought this in 1967, they used Brad Norris to do their renovation. And here is, Brad Norris's work being continued. It's just cool to see all this stuff connected and, things being carried on.
Great,
That's it.
thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck. That's wonderful.
Quite a project.
It's huge, yeah.
Project,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, above ground and below, yeah.
So they'll get the sewer all.
Give you back
they'll
that
get the
page.
Septic all set, and then the
Okay,
sewer's
so we
coming.
have one more hearing. That hearing is Patrick and Ann Pacious. Am I saying the name properly? Pacious. And they are at 878 Seaview Avenue, Osterville, map 090, parcel 002/002, built in 1929. And they are asking for a partial demolition, the new front portico with changes to the front facade windows, and removal of rear walls for additions, all materials to match existing. And Greg is here.
All right. Well, I believe you all have the same information packet. Where would you like to start? It's really the main fabric of the house is remaining unchanged with the few modifications to the front. A beautiful entry. There are some horrific bays that were installed at some point, and I would say, judging by the style of construction, probably in the 50s. And very unfortunate, and I'm delighted to say that I have Sally Weston as our architect, and their architect, and she has a wonderful gift, and when you see the finished product, it's really bringing it back to a much cleaner state. The addition on the back is very functional. It is it ties together the way people live today, and it is completely, it can't really be seen from the road. Weano Head Circle is well screened behind it. So this facade does not, it'll have landscaping changes, and the minor door changes. The sliders will be altered, but essentially, we intend to get rid of the vinyl siding and bring it back to the wide exposure cedar that is in place. So it's a very well built house, built in '28. At least that's the date that the masons inscribed into the mud in the attic. Well built. It's been well cared for. And it's on a beautiful lot, and it's a great candidate for restoration.
You have the plots, right? Show the area.
The elevations? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Weana Head Road. There's a residence there. And Seaview, this is very well screened. The bay windows are here and the new entry work, and then this is an addition. I keep doing that, sorry. This is an existing garage, and that is going to be removed and replaced with structure.
So again, the front and the removal of the
The
windows.
removal
And the
windows.
garage and that extra little shed off of it.
Yep. This chimney, we're looking to remove. It serves no purpose. I think it goes back to when this was probably a kitchen, and there was probably a cook stove in there. The chimney, which is visible on the backside, it could be reconstructed if it was historically important, but I'll leave it to you to determine. It doesn't.
But it's only 1928, 29.
1928, 29, yep.
Yeah, I mean, wood burning fireplaces were not critical in 1928.
No, I think that was an old kitchen stove.
Yeah.
So Sally's adding a rear stair entry. We're keeping the screen porch. And this provides access into the basement for bicycle storage and easy access. And it helps divide and provide access from the first floor kitchen to what will be a bedroom and connected corridor upstairs.
Wow. Now, Bob, what would you both Jack architecturally trained, what do you think of that front facade? Is it a bit busy, a bit?
You mean as
I'm just-
proposed?
Yeah.
I think it's a huge improvement over,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
over the
yeah.
bay windows.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wondered a little bit about the portico. So I'll tell you what I really wondered. It's purely a practical question, not an aesthetic one, and that is I understand putting side lights in on either side of the entry in order to get a little more light in the entry hall, but you're kind of fighting against the result by putting a portico over the entry at the same time. It's a mixed bag.
Faces
So
due south.
Yep, so it's going to get plenty of light that way.
Weatherability, but also it's a very large scale cape for its size.
Yes.
This is not a 24 or 32 cape. This is quite large, and I think an entry of that size is not inappropriate. I think it's very
No,
nice.
I'm okay with that. I discovered answering my own question before the hearing a little bit that it also picks up on the thematics of the balcony and porch area on the end of the building in a nice way. You do see them both at the same time, so I don't have any reservations about it.
Fantastic on the house. The detailing. This is not federal style. You know, it is a little bit more embellishment than that. It's a high order. The impetus for the door is retained with the addition of side lights.
No, I was glad to see that.
Again, I'm not architecturally trained, but I wondered if it's a bit too busy and decorated to have that railing around the portico, the door. It takes away from the 5 windows, maybe? I don't know.
You didn't have it because of the fact that there is a comparable railing on and balustrade on the porch at the end.
It exists.
Which you can see in the pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes it look busy, if it looks busy, is the multiplicity of dormers that are already pre-existing. And they're functional, and they're part of the atmosphere of the building. That's okay.
And they're quite large.
Yeah.
They're quite large. I mean,
good
the
point.
scale on this is very important. This railing, the Chippendale railing, is existing on another building on the property, and that's being continued.
Great.
So it's that, the ellipses, they're true ellipses, they're not lazy ellipses. Everything is architecturally appropriate.
I also reminded myself of the setting, that it's appropriate to think of elevating a house somewhat at that end of Seaview Avenue. It's got plenty of neighbors doing many of the same kinds of things and more, so.
It is quite an improvement on the existing front of the house. Other comments?
No?
No? Okay. We have not had a public hearing on this one yet,
I
right?
move we open a public hearing.
Yeah.
Second?
Anybody from the public want to come and speak? Speak now or forever hold your peace?
I'd offer Matt, but he works for me, full
Oh.
disclosure.
Your time to be on TV, you know?
However you think. Well, in that case, I move we close the public hearing, having been so expeditious about
Seconded
that.
by?
We'll second.
By Barbara. Okay, we will entertain a motion.
I'll try that. Is it Passius?
Patience.
Patience.
Patrick and Ann, 878 Seaview Avenue, Osterville, map 090, parcel 002/002, built 1929. Partial demolition, new front portico with changes to the front facade windows and removal rear walls for addition. All materials to match existing. Motion 1. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building 878 Seaview Avenue, Osterville, is a preferably preserved significant building.
Okay, and I will impose an 18-month delay, and nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Jack?
Is there a second?
We need a
We have to
second.
second.
Oh, second? You do.
And
Thank
I
you-
will
thank you
impose
for
an
asking
18-month
for one.
delay, and nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Okay, Jack?
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Nancy? Nay. Okay.
I move that in accordance with section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located 878 Seaview Avenue, Osterville is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
Second that.
Okay, and I vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay would be imposed. Barbara?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Nancy? Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peace be with you.
And there's your last sheet. Okay, my favorite part. We have our annual election nominations.
Bye all. Thank you.
Bye.
I'd like to nominate someone. Can I move right into that?
So we can take nominations this meeting, and next meeting we can actually do elections, because the reappointments, the second reading is happening after this meeting. So I need to wait for the reappointments to move through, but I can take nominations, so everybody is able to then get through for the next month.
Do we have any potential appointments for the Historical Commission?
I do not at the moment.
Just curious.
Okay.
I'll bring that up in a minute later.
For reappointment, I do have Cheryl and Marilyn who are
Yes.
looking to be reappointed. But as for new people coming on,
which is what I
I
had
do
meant.
not. Sorry.
No,
I wasn't thinking
wasn't-
reappointment. I just thought appointment.
wasn't
so-
clear.
Both are looking to be reappointed?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Bob Frazee, who may kill me for that, but as president.
I might kill you for that. I still feel like the new kid on the block in terms of theater performance, because I'm not used to the routine and doing it, but
But you've been on historical
comfortable
commissions
otherwise.
and
yeah.
All sorts of historical museums. You've been on a lot of different things, so I think you're pretty.
I could, but I want to be, you guys have been here longer than I have been, among other things, and others have too.
Oh, I
want to
think
be
that's a
careful
good
that
choice.
that's not an
I
issue
think
for
it's a
you.
good choice also.
You all right with that?
Yeah. I don't feel like I have the knowledge nor the experience to assume a
Well,
position.
you're sure getting there.
Yeah.
Getting there perhaps, but not there yet.
Well, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other nominations for chair?
Well, I would be happy to nominate. person who nominated me, because she does a great job, and she's proven. She's going to kill me just as quick as I'm going to kill her for doing it.
Look at those eyes.
Yeah, I know. There's a dueling activity going on here. Step back, ladies and gentlemen.
Bob was on this commission, weren't you, before I
Yeah,
was? And
I
I've been on it for 25
was
years
on
or
it
so.
for 7 or 8 years, at least, back in the late 80s.
So if he
and
says
early
he has no
90s.
experience, he's lying.
But it was a very different world. We had very different things to wrestle with than mostly is the case now. We didn't have a demolition delay ordinance then. We managed a town museum at Trazer Museum, the U.S.
Yeah.
Customs House. We did preservation awards. We did policy. We had a preservation department with paid staff devoted exclusively to preservation, which was pretty cool, but this works in a great way, too.
This is working.
This is
too,
part of a
yeah.
bigger picture, which I frankly think I like a lot. But it
And
was-
we
it
haven't
was a
had
different-
preservation
different
awards
thing.
done this year. It seemed to come and go.
Have any nominations?
Oh, you didn't?
I did
Okay.
not have anything submitted to me.
Well,
But-
Maybe we can revisit that next year. I know it's had ups and downs over the years, but I think, well, that's another matter for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
last year was up and down for sure.
I know. I mean, I didn't watch, but I heard. And it's supposed to be a positive experience for everybody. If we can't figure that out, how to do that, then first of all, shame on us. But second of all, we ought to be careful of it. That's all. So it's
Do
good.
So now we have-
any nominations for vice chair?
If I have to. But if anybody else wants it, they can.
I thought we discussed that.
We did last month and decided it was to appoint George for this one month.
Yep.
Because
As
next
chair.
month is the annual election, re-election, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't hold the actual elections today only because I'm waiting for the reappointments to go through. Both Cheryl and Marilyn are up for reappointment. So that would be a Nancy Shoemaker
They lost me at the bakery.
for that.
I feel your pain.
And do we have any other nominations for vice chair or just Nancy?
Jack, you want to be vice chair?
No, thanks.
And then
Aren't you going
lastly,
to take vice chair? Are
Yeah.
you going to stay vice chair?
I will if.
That
you
would
know,
be kind of
I don't
awesome
have to.
if you would. I
but
mean,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
or I could be your vice chair, depending on how the election goes.
If you'd like it, I would nominate that lady
you'll
right there.
nominate. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. And lastly, do we have any nominations for clerk?
Well, Maryland has been that.
Yeah, so I
I'd
would
like to
nominate
keep her,
Marilyn to
yeah.
remain as clerk, and I'm glad she's requested to be reappointed. I'm not quite sure how we're
Oh,
going to
she
work out
did.
being
Good,
able to bring her
good.
here to meetings or bring meetings to her.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the right moment to mention it, but a week or two ago, I did a videotaped interview for the local comprehensive planning committee, and I put a few ideas out there. And one of the ideas I promoted in it was to try and hybridize more of the town's meetings in order to reach more people, so that more venues like this one, not just the town hall hearing room, primary hearing room, town council chamber, are capable for AV and other purposes to have a more flexible meeting structure, so more people can participate as members of the committees and commissions. And I'm wanting to reach out to other age groups and demographic sections of the community as best we can,
Yeah.
too, and make a really full court press of it. But this would bring Marilyn back in the fold, too, so she could participate year-round and not just in the time of year when we're
And we
when
have
we're back
voted
Zooming
to go
again.
back to Zoom this winter.
We had,
Yeah.
and that's, I don't have a
Yeah,
problem with that if
yeah.
that's appropriate. I
But
think
then
we have more action.
then supposedly it ends, right? There's no choice. So hopefully that can get
Correct.
adjusted.
Yeah, correct. The state had allowed everyone to continue until March 2025 as either
Unless they
Zoom
extend it
or-
again, right?
Yep.
They might still.
They left it up to the towns. They could extend it again. That will be re-reviewed by the state in March.
Okay.
I hope they extend it again as an option, just because I think I'm a real believer that,
Yeah.
think about people with mixed work schedules. Somebody with a single-family household, they're 40, they got 2 kids, but they could contribute if only they could do it from their work platform at home instead of having to show up at a meeting. I mean, I don't want to cut those people out of it. Otherwise, it's going to be all of us retirees sitting on the commission, and,
And
that's
if we want to
fine,
reach
but-
other people, so
Yes.
that people will replace us and younger people,
Yeah.
like
I mean, don't mind me, but since we're talking about elections, I thought I'd get on my soapbox for 10 seconds.
You know,
Push that
to
idea a
have,
little
to
bit.
have that available for a young architecture student who.
Well, I think it helps
to
everybody
watch,
to have
yeah,
it flexible if
yeah.
it can be.
And just to comment on my end, if, I don't know what Marilyn's reasons are for not coming to the meetings, but if it's a matter of health, I'd be more than happy to wear a mask if that makes her feel comfortable.
Oh, as would any of us, I'm sure.
Right,
Good
so
for you.
just, so we put that on the table.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's really nice, Barbara.
Good.
Any other nominations for clerk before we close that portion out? No?
No.
Okay. We had only nominated George for the month. Did we want to nominate somebody for chair for the next month to review items, please?
Let's,
Well, we need to figure out if George is doing okay, right? Because
Yeah.
he's,
but we.
Oh,
yeah,
there was a
Which is
concern.
for
It's
another-
personal, we should
There
leave
was a
it, yeah.
concern?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
if
that.
George doesn't show up next month to start the meeting, I will do that if I have to.
Okay, perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
We've already made something of a tag team, because I can help Nancy a little bit. If you wing some questions at her about properties, I can go out and look at them and be a pair of eyes on the street if that's useful.
Any of us can do
Well, that's
that,
right.
you know.
I was going to say, I think, I
Yeah.
hope all of us
Yeah.
try to look at some of them at least.
I do.
Some
I
are
look at
harder
all.
to see than
I used to
others.
do it for Nancy quite a bit.
The one in Osterville that was our last hearing today was virtually impossible to see from the street, which
Yes,
is,
I saw that.
you know, an
yeah.
attribute on the one hand from the standpoint of
Yeah.
not having to be too worried about what they were doing. Well, what they're doing is good.
Well, I live right on top of Hyannisport, so it's,
There you go.
yeah, I'm in Old Craigville Village, so
Oh,
I'm
are you?
right on top of it.
Well, and there aren't very many inconspicuous properties in the port, in the National Register District, just because of how they're situated and built. You know, none of them are hiding in there.
So, Tracer artifacts.
Yes. Liz did finish up on Thursday inventorying the artifacts.
This is Liz Holbrook,
Yep.
who was hired by the town.
So all in all, the inventory includes 380 object entries. 49 of the entries have multiple objects grouped as one entry. So we actually have approximately 550 objects.
What would be an object that is grouped in 9 different areas? I'm not
So
understanding
we
what you
have
mean.
like shards of pottery and such like that. So all the shards were grouped together into one, for example.
Folder of reports would be one because it's a folder holding it.
Yep.
Oh, but the contents would be,
Be all alike, yeah. And she did know that, so that grouping does include large numbers of like newspapers that were grouped together, letters or photos included in photo albums, for example.
okay.
There's some genealogical papers as well, which are grouped
Excellent.
by name, for example, or by surname. So it makes sense when you see it, but it's a good question, because otherwise, it's a lot.
Bob and I went to meet Liz Holbrook,
Really
right?
appreciate
Their
it,
last
yeah.
name. And I think we were both very impressed with her accuracy and patience and concern to do everything properly and note it properly.
Definitely.
It was great to see these items again that we hadn't seen in 20 years. You know, it was a definite error by the town, 20-odd years ago, but I feel like this generation of people working for the town have really stepped up finally to the plate and cared and done a really accurate job. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that. Erica, do you have any other prognostications on next steps? Is this?
So next steps is to reach out to procurement, which Kate has been working in conjunction with David Anthony and Grace Rogers. And because we just finished up this, so I know that we are waiting upon the master inventory from Liz and her reports. So once we have those, we'll be able to reach out to David Anthony and Grace and proceed to move forward. So hopefully I'll have more information
And that will
next month.
be appraising, I suppose, or assessing the viability.
Yeah, there was a
values?
couple of items that we would want to have assessed because they could potentially be ivory. We're not sure, obviously, or it could be tooth or bone. So those would be protected
Yes.
under the NOAA's species parts. And then there may be some that are American Indian objects that would need to be
Those
given
are
back to the
superb
tribes.
reasons to have that done,
So
for
we
sure.
want to make sure that we are taking every precaution that we need to.
Great.
So I do believe, especially for like the ivory or the bone, or what steps we could take with some of those pottery shards and such like that, to continue to maintain and preserve them, might have better answers through the appraisal process as well.
And then our next step, I think, is to have a committee to help to disperse these items fairly. And I would hope it will be someone representing each of our villages, you know, and maybe others. I mean, I know it can't be a committee of 28 people, but, you know, I just mainly want to see these items go wherever they should go, you know.
So there's not going to be one focal point for everything that was found?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh.
I mean, there was a point of origin, if you will, which was the Tracer Museum, Town Museum at the U.S. Customs House 20 years ago, and they arrived there in a variety of different ways, and one of the reasons they were removed and kept in limbo for so long is the exact provenance and ownership, or what have you, was in question, or at least disputed, and it
Couldn't be backed up. But
Right.
there's one thing, there's a lot of them in there
a lot for
that
cataloging.
have a session number of D and maybe 9 digits, and that was done by Barnstable Historical. So maybe we should,
Well, we can get some
Tell her
information that
those.
clues that way of
Yeah.
to whom
and I'm sure there's other
whom
groups
to
too.
alert about their existence again and say, you know, if they're the ones who would be interested.
Yeah.
But Barnstable Historical Society, also among the societies in the town, has been the most mixture of generous and eclectic in its collection policy, in that it's collected from
Yeah,
all of
from
the
all 7
villages as opposed to
villages,
just
yeah.
from Barnstable. So it isn't a solution, it's a beginning. But that's
Yeah.
okay. And we don't need
Yeah,
to
no, I don't,
belabor it for now.
I'd like to see things from Katuitt go to Katuitt. and,
Yes,
you know, so on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Bob had noted, there are some like genealogical things in there as well, so perhaps getting them in touch with family members and such like that and bringing them back to their families.
And the Cape Cod Genealogical Society would be a good filter for that, to do the
Yeah.
right thing.
There were multiple journals, multiple photos, there were Clara Hallett items, there's, I know you were very interested in the, I forgot his name offhand, Sam, and you were
Wasn't-
looking through the journals, the Hinckley journals.
Oh, it was the Hinckley
It
Journal.
was the
Yeah, okay,
Hinckley
I was going to
Journal.
say Hinckley, but I
Yep.
wasn't sure if that was it.
I could only think of the first name for a second.
Yep.
Because I know we had looked at the name Sam in there. So, you know, there are several items of that caliber that very, very prominent Cape Cod families.
Well, and I remember Liz suggesting that that particular file box alone has so many potential records and leads in it, it could occupy years of research.
Yeah.
And so finding a repository that has active researchers and caregivers, stewards, what have you, that would measure up to its
It will benefit
standard
everyone.
of-
That's
but really important.
Yeah, yeah. So we were
My happy news
pleased.
was discovering how relatively little harm seemed to have been done to the things from aging in an unheated,
Not humidified or controlled
absolutely
humidity.
the antithesis of climate control attic of the 200 building for 20 years. I feared the worst, I really did, and I was impressed that and relieved that it wasn't like that,
Yeah,
so.
so we're pleased so far.
So I should hopefully have more information regarding the next step next meeting.
Great.
Katuitt Form Bs.
Same as the last time. I added some more in, like I said I would. I know that Phil did reach out to me. Actually, he just sent me an email stating that, gave a little bit more of a background to some of these Form Bs. He discovered the bottleneck of Form Bs in October of 2020 and he approached BHC at the time. He had spoken with Jessica Rapp-Grassetti, who was our town council liaison. I don't know if she was on the commission at that time or she was town council liaison.
What year?
2020?
No, no.
She would have been on the council.
Hadn't been
On the
for-
council,
Not on
so
the commission
liaison.
at that time.
Looking to move the project along. So he had included a little bit more to it. He said at the end of last year, they were able to finally get 20 high priority Form Bs through us onto MHC. The Macris and MHC seemed very amenable.
Good.
He's like, I don't know if anyone had apprised them or the magnitude of the problem, but I didn't have any trouble
No
with
bad feedback from
I
MHC
didn't,
so far.
no.
Okay, well, that's
I
important.
haven't heard back from MHC about this next,
The most
the one,
recent
yeah, the
batch.
most recent
Yeah.
batch, but I'm gonna follow up.
Okay.
He said that, Phil said that there were about 250 Katuitt Form Bs with a BHC that have not been processed.
Oh, my God,
Plus
really?
another 80 or so from other villages, about half of those from Marston's Mills. He said that, as you all noted, many were Jim Gould's work, but some dated back to the early 90s before Jim was working on any Form Bs.
So one of my
so
questions
there
will
is-
end up being whether they are current enough to be acceptable to MHC. I hope they are. I mean, God knows they were at the time
Yeah.
they were done, right? Did anybody identify where the bottleneck was in all of this? Was it town level or historical society level or up at MHC somehow? I'm just
I'm not
puzzled by
exactly
that.
sure. He gave more of a detailed one out with when he had spoken to Jessica Grassetti, and he included that email into here, but I have not looked through it yet because I said he just
that's
sent this
okay.
to me.
That's a tremendous amount of work that
Yeah.
is backed up and not available
didn't
to
realize
MHC.
how
No, I didn't have any idea
big
either.
that was either, to be honest.
Have any of the ones that have been forwarded to MHC of the initial groups been scanned that you know of? Are they
Yes,
just-
so not this past one, because like I
But
said,
others
I
have
need to
been
follow.
scanned and are
Yes,
available
and
online
and
now?
are on Macris now.
Okay.
We have followed up with that,
Super.
and those have been on,
So
have been added
that's a
to
very good
Macris.
sign right
Yes.
there.
It took a little while, but it,
Okay.
yeah,
A little
that's
time to
fine.
process doesn't bother me, as
Yeah.
opposed to them either sitting on them or sending a box back
Yeah.
or something.
The ones that were high priority, the 20 high priority ones that Phil mentioned, that we got through at the end of last year, those were the ones that were added to Macris, and those
Good.
are now
All right.
available on Macris.
Thank you. That's great to know. The reason I pressed those questions is because this batch of 5 I looked at quickly, and I noticed the very first 2 in the sequence have some handwritten notes in them and some potential address corrections and things like that. And I'm a little wondering if MHC will accept them that way. On the other hand, I think it's better to try and see if they will, because if we start to write them as if they're new Form Bs, they're going to have to be completely redone with new photos of the buildings that are current and the new standards for how the forms are done. And I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole if we don't have to. But I'm sort of preparing us for the idea that maybe 1 or 2 might wing back at us for that kind of reason, because they're not formally completed the way they struck me the rest of them were.
Yeah.
But the top.
They've been updated since, but not the forms themselves.
Right.
Like, the
Right.
process of the forms have been
Original.
updated, but not the original
Right. I get
forms
it.
themselves.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Think of people like Martin Wertinen, who I was told did towards 1,000. I can't imagine how it could be, but
He used to do the
did
title
a
research on
bulk of
every single
them.
one of them. That was his
Yeah.
specialty, and
Yeah.
he was on the historical commission with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
remember that years ago. Interesting guy.
Great guy.
But yeah, we can continue to accept these Form Bs and move them along to MHC. Once I hear back, then I will provide another update from MHC of
Great.
whether or not they will accept them, or perhaps if they don't, reasons why they won't accept them at this
Sure.
point in the stage. That way we can work
Having
in
the chance-
conjunction with Phil, and I know this is definitely a passion project.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I share his passion on it. I think that's really appropriate. I mean, I'm sure Nancy and I probably knew 99% of the people who did all the work on them, too, so don't want that to go to waste. It's also kind of an interesting read. I don't know, reading them in great depth might be a little tedious, especially in the historical narratives, but if you just pick one out because something about it caught your eye, they're really well done.
They're kind of
especially Jim's.
mini novels sometimes, you
It
know?
is, isn't it?
It's remarkable.
The depth of
Yeah.
them is
Yeah.
superb.
So Community Preservation Committee update?
At this time, there is none. Marilyn noted that there were no historic items
Okay.
on
All right.
the CPC meeting.
And
Bush.
upcoming historical events open to the public. I, of course, have some. This might be for you, too. Well, in Barnstable Historical Society, Rich French and Sarah Benson and I met with a Freeman Crosby who lives in Comaquid, 93 years old. He doesn't live in Comaquid anymore. He goes back and forth to Florida and is returning there later this week. He's loaning a painting of his great, I don't know, grandfather's ship, the Magnet. It's a gorgeous portrait, huge, and a portrait of the captain, James Crosby. And I mention this, that it's to encourage people to do things like this, but also the family isn't sure they want to give it away. And this is good for all historical societies or associations. They're going to have a long-term loan.
There you go.
And with, I imagine, we haven't written it yet, but, you know, if one of the members comes in and says this 5-year loan, they'd rather make it 3 years or something, we should
Draft it
adjust
with
to
care.
that.
And if the
But-
family wants flexibility, or if the historical society
And they're
does,
worried about having a
can write the
safe place to
flexibility
store
into it.
these things. And
Well,
so
they
they
should-
will for a while, you
Yep.
know? So-
Also, make sure that everybody understands whether or not and to what degree whatever the artifact is insured.
Oh, we've discussed that,
That's
yes,
often a
yes.
nebulous issue. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a
One of
subject
the items
difficulty
actually
back in the
is
town museum.
already insured by the family, the other one wasn't, so the Historical Society will
That's great.
take that up.
Is this the Crosby Shipyard? The family of the shipyard?
Yes, yeah, they actually started in Brewster and came, Freeman Crosby moved to Main Street in Barnstable Village. Sarah did a cell phone recording of him.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
everything he said was delightful, fascinating. Just he described all these different buildings and who lived in them when, and so it was. I shouldn't go on and on about that. So that was great. Let's see. Oh, we had a Jazz in the Garden thing for Barnstable Historical and had a fair amount of people
Very
there.
nice.
Let's see. I'll just get into. Sturgis Library, if you are thinking of going to Barnstable Village, we have a Barnstable Historical Society, again, has an exhibit on the 2 cemeteries in Barnstable Village, not Comaquid, you know, just, I was almost going to try to do all 5 across the 6A and a little below, but, that includes Nathaniel Holmes, who was considered the first major commercial stone carver on the Cape, gravestone carver, and his house and his workshop are still there today, which is very cool. And we can point out, history geeks like can point out all these gravestones. He's done over 1,300. I've seen 1,350. I've seen the estimated amount of stones that he carved on the Cape is 1,500. But
Are there
I can point.
records or somebody physically saw like initials carved or?
Wait a minute.
Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
The 1,300
Yeah.
stones, are there his records
Are
on
they
that?
just headstones?
Yeah.
And maybe possibly the footstones?
Yeah.
You might be right. That
Ah.
might be the variation there.
Okay.
Headstones, you know, the dead body, the headstone was here with the words facing that way, you know, so you could read it. And the footstone with the feet out here would very often just have, they would mirror usually the shape and be much smaller and have the initials or maybe the name and maybe the dates, you know. So yeah, it could include those. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Jeff Crocker, we have so many Crockers on Cape Cod, and he is going to do a talk on the Crockers of West Barnstable at the Meeting House, 1717 Meeting House, on Route 149 on July 19th. I can send out something to send to everybody, posters and all. The Ancient Cemetery in Yarmouth and Greg Williams. Have you all heard of Greg Williams? Interested in history, he's now a retired judge, very into crime. Loves the murder stories, you know. So he's giving a presentation, including what Ancient Cemetery is going to probably talk about. They've had an incredible gravestone carving class for maybe 5 years now. I was part of it for the first 2 years. So they're going to be at the Meeting House the next Friday, which is the 26th. And then David Crocker, father of Jeffrey Crocker, is going to give a presentation at Sturgis Library on Monday the 29th at Sturgis, and for West Barnstable Historical Society, of all the different items from the Crocker family, not Crosby now, but Crocker, that he and his family have given to Sturgis over the years, and explain some of the types of things, you know, kind of give us a little roadmap maybe of what they have donated. And then an interesting thing was we had there was an almshouse that was here on Route 149, part of the Lombard farm. We could be here all day. I won't talk about Lombard and all, but anyway, that chair, we, West Barnstable Historical Society, put it into the 12-unit senior housing that's on Route 149, and they don't want it anymore, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's something it wasn't in great condition when it went there. And
probably worried about it.
yeah, so we're taking it back, and I'm hoping the town, speaking to the town, will let us store a few things like that in the Payne Black House once it's available for use. So, interesting chair, though, from the Almshouse. Lots of stories there. And last thing I have, anyway, is Cahoon Museum is free this coming Saturday.
Oh.
And they have artwork, obviously, but they have some artifacts, too. Yeah.
I have a thing for you that I'm going to trigger it, and you're going to tell me what it is I have, and you're going to understand what I mean when I say it. So I had a call from Greg Ketchen from the Coast Guard Heritage Museum before the meeting, and part of his message was that to please speak about their new exhibit, which is open on the first floor in what was right behind where the post office had been in the U.S. Customs House, and that you would know all about it. And I don't remember what he said the title of it is. And that's what I'm a little
The exhibit?
embarrassed about.
Well,
The new exhibit. It's about
the building
maritime art and
was
culture.
Trazer Museum and is now custom.
No. I mean the new exhibit this year.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I just don't know
Okay.
if they know the
Excuse me, sorry.
building. Yeah, so it is a private organization, a 501c3, encouraging that we all learn more and more about the history of the Coast Guard, and before that, the U.S. Life Saving Service. And this exhibit is on entertainment. It's going to be an exhibit of children's toys of Coast Guard vessels. It's going to be movies that were made about Coast Guard characters. I was in the Coast Guard for 17 years, so I'm a character too. It's paintings. I discovered this painter artist who was working with a vice admiral, I think it was, for lunch one day, and they were asking him to do paintings for the posters of recruiting for World War I. 2 hours later, they got him to join.
Wow,
And he
that's great.
did. So many good stories there. So yeah, go to the
I
Custom
just wanted
House.
to mention it as an event upcoming.
Yeah.
And if I can say it's sort of out of sequence, but as a part of the same call, he said to me that he had relatively good news from an engineering report on
Yes.
the building, which we'd all shared some concern
Yeah.
about, and they don't believe, at least at this stage, that any of the damage that they discovered is structural. They think it's...
Did you know all about this?
Well, I had
One of the
mentioned it at
windows
previous
in the building, it was cracking, everything was kind of heaving. They thought it was really structural. It turns out to be very localized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a possibly modern piece of iron reinforcement under the windowsill that got wet and
Yeah,
corroded and
and corroded,
expanded,
yeah.
which is what iron does. Not iron, excuse me, steel does. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
what I had.
Good.
I didn't mean to interrupt the process.
No,
but
no.
If I didn't do it then, it wasn't going to happen.
Yep. Oh, and Bob and I went to Nancy Clark's,
We did.
celebration of her life yesterday.
That's what
And,
it was.
Yeah, I
It's a
brought for
beautiful
her, if you want this, you can have that. I brought for her family book covers, front and back, that I was designing for her for a book that she hadn't finished. And maybe, I don't know, is there a place where you would put that in our files? Just
Yeah, we
because
can
there's
do
a
that.
little history, there's a little bio of her on the back,
You guys
too.
can look at it too.
Her kids seem very interested in having that book published.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll happen, but.
We'll
you
see
know.
if they do. She was an incredible artist. She was not the author of, but she was the illustrator of a book in the early 90s, also on the railway. She was am I going to say it right, philatelist?
That's right.
Okay.
As close as I can get.
Yeah, I'm always a little, But Nancy was such a special person. She just, incredible lady. We really all miss her. Add to that?
Not really, no. It was a nice afternoon. It was a nice time to be there. The summer traffic has arrived.
Yeah.
It took me an hour and a quarter to get home from Woods Hole.
Don't plan on doing it in a hurry. And it was a weekday. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that in a long time.
It
I'm
was
glad I
nice that
went.
you went.
Oh, yeah. No, it was very worth going. And her family seemed to appreciate that we were
Yeah,
there. And
yeah, definitely.
this commission meant a lot to Nancy. She served this commission for close to 20 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was continuous or not, but it was close to it. And despite some health issues, so,
Oh,
she was,
incredible health issues and never seemed to disturb her personality or sense of humor or
I
concentration.
mentioned to her daughters and to her husband, Doug, an experience we had with her during a historical commission Zoom this past winter, looking at a house on South County Road in Centerville with a chimney that maybe they wanted to remove. Do you guys remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
When someone talked about a chimney today, didn't that flashback?
Well, that conversation that she stepped into, and she was not focusing on the imbalance or the asymmetry of the building or the interruption of the roof deck with this weird chimney that was put there pretty much from the beginning of the building's construction. She zoomed right in on the artisanship and workmanship of how the chimney had been finished off and clad in copper and sealed up, and I'm going, wow, she saw something that the rest of us weren't even looking at or for.
And she wasn't afraid to speak up.
No, not at all. No, she was not a bashful person. And, to her credit, there's something we can all learn from that, I think, whenever we see a chimney wandering around on a roof or anything of that kind.
Yeah.
But, thank you for mentioning it, Nancy. That's great.
Anybody want to
We have minutes.
suggest we?
We have minutes to vote on.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And I have a question also. Anything
Yes.
about the training? Any update on that?
Oh, yes, sorry. Unfortunately, this room was booked as well as the P&D conference room, so I was not able to schedule it for this month. I'm hoping I did book the P&D conference room for next month if everyone is available on the 16th. If not, I can go ahead and try for August. I do know, obviously, the summer months can be a little bit difficult for everyone.
Gee,
It's a
what
little
makes
bit
you say
busy.
that?
It is a
I think
bit
for me,
busy.
August personally is better, but,
Okay.
that's just me.
So this is July 16th.
It would have been July 16th.
At 1 o'clock or 1:30?
I was thinking 1:30, so about an hour and a half, so
Yeah.
1 o'clock, 1 to 2:30.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I'm going to have family and grandkids around both of those dates, and I already have the Historical Commission meeting in my book, and it doesn't matter too much to me if it matters to hear back. I mean, if August is better for Barbara than July, I don't have a problem with that. We could do August. I'm just anxious to make sure we do it, because
Right.
every
Yeah.
hearing I can feel my churning of little internal questions that I want to ask, like
Yes.
the one about the yay, nay thing.
Yep.
July 16th? And what do you call it?
July 16th or August 20th, whichever works better for the majority of the commission would be best.
We calling it a workshop or something?
Yeah,
or-
it's a training workshop,
Thank you.
Training of what?
Us.
just kind of going over the code.
No, I hope, especially you guys have been doing this for a while, I hope you're well beyond that.
No, just going over the code, going over, so the 112 code that this Historic Commission works under, as well as any open meeting law questions if you have any, or if you have any questions about Section 106, any questions about, my mind is blanking, there was another thing that everyone,
Well, as I said, the
zoning and
EA
everything,
thing,
yeah.
that annoying
Yep. And that
throw the
pertains
historic
to-
buildings under the bus and then keep voting on them kind of thing, which
What
drives
time
me
is this dance?
It'd be
And they
1
have-
o'clock, so it'd be right before our regularly scheduled meeting.
So
We were talking
1 to
originally about
2:30, and then you can take a break and get some fresh air and come back at 3.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or we'll blow a little
Barbara
whistle
said
and get up and
that
walk around
August
the
works
table.
better for her. Does August work for you?
What's that?
Would August 20th work for you?
It all works for me.
Okay.
Unless I'm
What
in,
about you?
unless I'm in
Fine,
court.
fine.
August
I got it on my
20th.
calendar.
I've been
All right.
On July. Is that what we're
You
saying?
go to
No,
court
we're
much?
saying August because Barbara
bet.
called you.
Oh, I thought
Doctor's
you were the
appointment
opposite.
that-
Okay, all right.
Hard to schedule.
Of course. No problem. I totally understand.
So we're
that
doing it-
struggle.
All the forensic architecture for HMC architects in California.
Oh,
And I have to testify
okay.
who screwed it up.
Yeah, I get it. So I, a very dear friend of mine and my wife's was an arbitrator.
I'm into
Architectural
the actual construction and architectural forensics to
Got
find
it.
out, did this failure happen because architecturally it wasn't constructible, or structurally
Wow.
it was improperly designed?
You would have been pained to have walked through the house on Pine Ave with Nancy. Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't the result of anybody's architectural failure, but, you know, the idea would be crossing your mind.
Oh,
But
So-
there were joists that weren't really connected to beams, and I mean, it was, I'm ignorant of this, not, there were some strange
There were some areas
things
that were
done.
burned out.
Yeah.
But mostly not in the principal construction of the
Okay.
old building. Most
Yeah.
of that was to do with the
And
19th
that's why
century part.
they're clearly redoing it, yeah.
Yeah, actually, the fire seems to have occurred in, or had the most impact in the confluence of the two structures.
yeah.
All right, that's just classic. And it went up, so it went through the roof. Anyway, we digress, and I did not mean to do that.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to say, I will, tomorrow is Juneteenth, so town offices will be
Yep.
closed. So on Thursday, I will look into booking the room for August for the training
Thank you
workshop. No
for
problem.
accommodating.
No, thank you for being patient with me and understanding.
But that
it's
gives
been a
all of us
process.
tons of time, which is dangerous with me, because I'll wait till the last minute anyway, to think of our questions in advance to send to
Yeah,
Erica.
good.
So if we
Yes,
need
please.
some special expertise from around about town hall, or dare I say MHC, or someplace like that, there'll be time to corral an answer or a person or whatever it might be.
Yep,
Somebody
section
can do a
106
cameo
questions,
performance
especially
on
if you have
Zoom.
anything specific with wind projects that are just, you know, outside of, that's more specific than just the section 106. It is something that I can reach out to Tom LaRosa on, who's really delved into those projects. And I know that's been a big question about section 106s as well. So we can discuss that then as well.
That will keep coming up. I mean, as long as there are wind farms or things happening on federally funded projects anywhere, that's just going to be something that
Yeah.
kicks in.
Yeah, and it's best and everyone understands the role of which the commission could play in those.
It's a valuable tool.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of the few tools there is on a big project for a small commission in an individual town.
Yeah.
There aren't too many other ways to say much.
I have to go to a 5 o'clock meeting.
Okay. If we could, approval of minutes real quick. I know that Bob had a couple of.
I sent 2 potential amendments. They were to the very beginning section of it about the Pine Ave house, and they were to alter the wording from where it says, as well as photo documentation to record its prosperity.
Yeah.
It should really probably say to record it for posterity.
Yes.
Okay? And I think no problem agreeing with that. And the other was on the vote for continuing the hearing. It says it was a nay vote, when in fact it was an aye vote in order to continue in that case. And I just want to be sure we're, since that's the record. And I didn't see anything else in the rest of the minutes that
Did
kicked.
anyone else see
Yeah,
anything?
that's the question.
Oh, and I even missed those, so. That's what
I'm
happens
just
when you
so
read fast.
focused on that building probably, which is why it's fair game if any of you saw anything else in any other parts of the minutes, but that was the one I saw.
Could we have a motion to approve them with the edits suggested?
Yes. Motion to approve with edits suggested.
And I second that.
Second that.
A vote?
Aye.
Right.
Perfect. Okay.
It's unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, but there could be matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair.
Anyone got anything?
If
Okay.
you really wanted to, I think you possibly can go and look at that video I mentioned earlier, and you might find that it's instructive from a historical commission point of view. It's on the local comprehensive planning website under testimony.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And if you want to lock me up afterwards, I'll understand it.
We
Okay.
can send the link around.
Oh, could you? All right, send
Oh,
it
that'd
to
be-
Erica.
thank you,
Yeah,
Clyde, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. Great, good.
Just send it to my friends, don't send it to anybody else. I'm kidding.
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jack, did I hear you?
Aye.
Okay. Adjourn.
This is